When we talk about Hollywood, transformation is often the name of the game, right? Taking a script, turning it into this big spectacle, or adapting an emotional book into, well, a hopefully powerful film.
Absolutely. It's about making something new.
But sometimes that transformation process itself, it just goes completely off the rails. The art gets lost, and instead, you end up with this really vicious, high-stakes fight over control.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, we're looking at the pretty catastrophic implosion of the production of It Ends With Us. This was supposed to be a really significant film.
Hugely anticipated.
Yeah.
Based on a massively popular book.
Dealing with tough themes, trauma, survival, domestic abuse. But instead of delivering that message, the whole thing just fractured. It escalated into this enormous $400 million courtroom battle.
$400 million, it's staggering.
And it became about professional boundaries, creative rights, and really at the end of the day, who gets to define what the truth is.
You've got these two central figures, Blake Lively, a major star, known for projecting a kind of quiet resilience, maybe.
Yeah, that feels right. And then Justin Baldoni, the director, also an actor, known for bringing a lot of sincerity, maybe earnestness to his project.
Right. They promised intimacy, nuance. That was the pitch for the film.
But what actually unfolded was this legal war that basically took their private friction, whatever was happening behind the scenes, and just blasted it onto the global stage.
It really is the ultimate irony, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a project that's meant to shed light on these cycles of abuse and control. And it becomes completely defined by its own internal drama about alleged abuse of power and this high-stakes legal battle for control.
So our goal today is to try and move past just the headlines.
Exactly. We've looked at the sources, the legal filings, the reports, to really understand the mechanics here. How did a dispute that might have started over creative standards or professional boundaries, how did that get weaponized into this massive defamation fight?
The central tension is just unavoidable, like you said. This wasn't simply a movie set that went sour.
No, it morphed. It became a courtroom battlefield.
Right.
And the price tag on winning that narrative control was set at $400 million.
So let's unpack that, because for you, the listener, this story, it really reveals a lot about celebrity power, about legal retaliation, and maybe how fragile truth can be in that Hollywood ecosystem.
Let's start with that core contrast. The source material for the film, the book, it's beloved. It tackles trauma, survival, aims to start conversations about domestic violence. Really important stuff.
Absolutely. But the environment where they tried to make this film, well, the sources suggest it was almost the opposite of that goal.
That disconnect is profound. The intention was healing, dialogue. But the reality, according to those initial allegations that surfaced, was a production set described as a hostile place.
That's the friction point right there.
Yeah. Good intentions in a script, they don't automatically shield a production from difficult human dynamics, especially, when you factor in huge amounts of money, creative egos.
Right. That tension feels key to understanding why it all just blew up.
It really does.
And the spark, the thing that really turned this internal friction into a public firestorm, was Blake Lively's initial move. She didn't go the usual route, maybe leaks or PR statements.
No, she used formal government channels, which is a very specific choice.
What exactly did she do?
She filed a formal complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, the CCRD. Now, this isn't like sending an email to HR.
Okay.
This is asking a state agency to investigate workplace conditions. By going to the CCRD, she was effectively bypassing internal processes and immediately creating an official government record of her complaints.
That definitely raises the stakes significantly.
It makes it legally visible right from the start.
And what were the specifics in that complaint, beyond just saying it was a hostile set?
Well, the core allegations, according to the sources, did center on specific boundary violations that allegedly happened during filming, which is already sensitive given the film is about intimacy and trauma.
Yeah, extreme.
But the claim that really escalated things, the one that was potentially far more damaging, was this allegation of a social manipulation campaign.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
She alleged this campaign was orchestrated, specifically designed to destroy her professional reputation and basically undermine her standing on the project itself.
Wow. Okay, so that deeper claim, the alleged campaign, that's what really shifts this from just an on-set disagreement to a full-on narrative war.
Precisely. That CCRD filing, as the source material really highlights, it turned private friction into public tinder. Once you allege systematic harassment and a coordinated campaign to ruin someone's reputation,
Yeah.
you're moving the whole dispute. It's not just about working conditions anymore. It's a legal battle about intentional professional harm.
Yeah.
That formal declaration basically forced the legal system to look not just at what happened on set, but at all the power plays and communications after that, the ones designed to frame the conflict.
And the immediate irony, it's almost heartbreaking, is that this movie, designed to expose the dangers of manipulation and control in a place, it instantly morphed into its own violent courtroom drama. Legal briefs replacing blows, as the source put it.
And that speed, that inversion, it's tragic. One minute, the goal is art, messaging, trauma recovery. The next minute, the entire focus shifts. It becomes about the power struggle between the stars.
And the public is forced to pick a side.
Based on incomplete information, leaked documents, the actual message the film was supposed to carry, it got immediately, fundamentally buried under the noise of celebrity warfare and the sheer necessity of legal defense.
Okay, so that CCRD complaint was the opening shot. But if Lively's move was, let's say, calculated aggression, then Justin Baldoni's response was something else entirely. It was like a full-scale shock and awe counteroffensive. He didn't just deny everything.
No, he came back with this staggering $400 million defamation and extortion complaint.
That number, $400 million. We have to talk about that number.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's not just a high figure, it's a strategy. It's calculate deterrence, it's an offensive move. It signals that Baldoni's team saw Lively's actions, the Laziri filing, the alleged reputation damage, that whole manipulation campaign claim as a direct threat.
A threat to what specifically? His career, the film.
Both. His long-term career viability, definitely. But also the massive potential franchise value of this specific film. It ends with us. That number tells you. This isn't just about reputation. This is a fight for economic survival, in their view.
And who exactly did that huge counterclaim target? Was it just Lively?
No, it was sweeping. It aimed at Lively, her husband, who is, let's be clear, a significant power player in Hollywood himself.
Right, Ryan Reynolds.
And the whole PR machine surrounding the film. The core accusation was that this was all a coordinated campaign, not just defamation, but extortion, an attempt to forcibly strip Baldoni of creative control as the director, and crucially, to ruin his ability to helm future projects.
Wow. Extortion is a heavy word.
Extremely heavy. And the legal papers, the sources describe them as thick, the tide is furious. It just underscores the enormous personal and professional stakes that were suddenly in play.
So this massive countersuit instantly creates these two completely opposed narratives, both robust, both likely well-funded, and both immediately pushed out into the media.
They had to. They absolutely had to define their own stories fast. Otherwise, that $400 million number would define it for them.
So Lively's camp, what was their narrative?
They framed her actions immediately as necessary, brave, a woman standing up, drawing hard lines against alleged inappropriate behavior within this powerful system, a system that often punishes you for drawing those lines.
Which, interestingly, aligns pretty closely with the themes of her character in the film, a survival story.
Exactly. That alignment was likely very intentional.
And Baldoni's camp, how did they counter?
They punched back hard, painting him as the real victim here, the creative artist, fighting to protect his vision, his voice, his reputation from these strategically deployed and allegedly false accusations. Accusations coming from, in their narrative, a powerful celebrity machine that wanted a total creative takeover.
So you immediately have these two camps.
Polarized.
Yeah.
And the public is watching this unfold. The source material describes the reaction perfectly. Curious, skeptical, and polarized.
It forces people into choosing sides.
Instantly. What's fascinating, and maybe depressing, is how quickly the public opinion machine simplified the incredibly complex situation. You were either the safety advocate or the undermined artist. Full stop.
All the nuance just disappears.
Completely gone. The possibility of, a messy professional conflict over creative differences, which happens all the time in filmmaking, that got totally lost the second those words harassment and extortion were legally filed. The battle became purely about perception, managed minute by PR teams trying to define the hero and the villain.
And the escalation didn't even stop there with the countersuit. Baldoni's legal team started going after anyone they thought was contributing to this narrative they saw as damaging.
Yeah, this is where the dispute really spirals outwards, starts pulling in these major external players. It enters what you could call a real legal vortex.
And the most dramatic move in terms of challenging institutional power.
That had to be suing the New York Times directly.
Suing the New York Times, that takes guts. matters something.
It's a huge move. Think about it. Suing an actor, even a major one, is one thing. Suing one of the world's most influential news organizations, that's an entirely different level of legal warfare.
Yeah.
It signals enormous commitment and, frankly, risk.
What was their legal argument for suing the Times? What could they claim?
The core allegation was that the paper had essentially colluded in the narrative, that their reporting wasn't objective, that it was biased, maybe even orchestrated, or somehow part of this alleged campaign against Baldoni.
How did the Times respond?
Predictably, they defended their reporting vigorously, every word, every source, as they absolutely have to. But the move itself, suing the Times, it showed Baldoni's team was willing to use the legal system not just to fight the claims against him, but to challenge the very validity of mainstream media reporting on those claims. That's a really aggressive and some would say dangerous tactic.
And then, separate from the Times, came the move that just cemented this whole thing in pop culture history. The Taylor Swift subpoena attempt.
Ah, yes. The moment the legal drama intersected with, well, the absolute apex of global celebrity culture.
What was the thinking there? Why try to subpoena Taylor Swift?
Baldoni's lawyers sought that subpoena, targeting Swift as, the sources called her, the cultural amplifier, and crucially, Blake Lively's close confidante, the legal goal, to get her private texts, her messages.
But why? What did they think those texts would show? What was the legal justification?
The argument was basically this. Swift, as one of Lively's closest allies, likely had private communications that would prove the existence of this alleged orchestration campaign. They believed her private messages held the keys to who pushed what behind the scenes.
They were looking for the smoking gun of a conspiracy.
Essentially, yes. Evidence that the damaging information wasn't just reported in good faith, but was strategically leaked or coordinated to defame Baldoni. They were hunting for proof of intent.
That definitely generated headlines. Maximum tabloid appeal achieved.
Absolutely. But legally, it met fierce resistance almost immediately.
Yeah, I imagine so.
The court pushback was intense. The attempt landed badly and was, according to the sources, quickly withdrawn. But even though it failed legally, it kind of succeeded strategically in cementing the dispute's place as this top-tier celebrity scandal.
It showed how far they were willing to go.
Exactly. The lengths they'd go to access private channels.
Right.
And it just amplified the public fascination with who was telling the truth.
Okay, so setting aside the sensationalism for a moment, let's get back to the core legal proceedings, because there were key judicial rulings that really shaped the whole fight. There was a major one back in June.
Yes, that June ruling was arguably the most critical turning point in the legal battle so far. The judge issued an order essentially tossing out the core of Baldoni's case, that massive $400 million defamation claim against Blake Lively.
Thrown out, the whole $400 million claim.
The core defamation claim, yes. This wasn't just trimming the edges, it dismantled the strategic and economic centerpiece of Baldoni's entire counterattack. A huge development.
Why? What was the judge's reasoning for dismissing a claim of that magnitude?
The fundamental finding was that the core actions Lively took, filing the workplace complaint, the statements related to it were legally protected. And this brings us to a really important legal concept, especially in workplace disputes: anti-SLAPP statutes.
Anti-SLAPP, what does that stand for?
Yeah. SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation. These laws exist in California and other places specifically to protect people, like employees, whistleblowers, or just citizens speaking out from being silenced by powerful entities who use massive lawsuits just to shut them up.
Okay, so the judge was basically saying Lively had a right to file that complaint and speak about it, and Baldoni couldn't sue her for hundreds of millions just for doing that?
That's the essence of it. The judge determined her actions fell under the protection of these anti-SLAPP laws, meaning they were related to matters of public concern, workplace safety, conduct on set. Therefore, the lawsuit aiming to punish her for that speech couldn't stand.
So it framed Baldoni's huge lawsuit less as a legitimate defense against defamation and more like retaliation, an attempt to silence her.
That's certainly the implication of applying anti-SLAPP protection. It validated her right to report her concerns and seriously undercut the foundation of Baldoni's incredibly aggressive financial counterstrike. It was a major procedural win for Lively's team and seen as a sharp public rebuke to the strategy Baldoni's team had employed.
And the sources also mentioned the judge didn't stop there. There were warnings issued.
Yes, the judge actually went further, admonishing the lawyers involved, warning them about potential sanctions if they kept misusing the court process, specifically by filing extraneous inflammatory documents.
What does that mean, inflammatory documents? Like trying to leak things through court filing?
Potentially, yes. Or just including material designed to generate headlines rather than directly advance legal arguments.
Yeah.
The judge was essentially drawing a line in the sand. This court is for law, not for entertainment or for waging a PR war through filings.
So the judiciary stepping in to try and curb the spectacle aspect.
Exactly. A firm reminder that even in a huge celebrity case like this, legal procedure matters. The rules are there for a reason, not just to provide fodder for gossip columns.
Okay, so while all this high-stakes legal fighting is grabbing the headlines, there's another layer to this. The human cost. The quieter tragedies, as the source material puts it, unfolding away from the spotlight.
This is crucial because it moves beyond just the two stars. Our sources really highlight the impact on the unsung workers, the crew members, the editors, composers, assistants, everyone whose job depended on this production actually happening smoothly.
What happens to them when the star and director are locked in a $400 million legal war?
Well, the production effectively freezes, creatively and financially. Budgets get squeezed or reallocated to legal fees, decisions get delayed indefinitely, and as the power dynamics shifted, people got caught in the crossfire. The sources reported that crew members were dismissed, replaced, or excluded. You can imagine how that happens, right? If the director is fighting for control, maybe they sideline someone perceived as loyal to the star, or vice versa. Or entire departments might get put on hold because the money's tied up, or the creative direction is now completely uncertain.
So people lose their jobs, their income.
Yeah, these are folks whose livelihoods depend on project continuity. They become these small casualties in a massive dispute that really has nothing to do with their work quality. And think about the morale on a set like that, especially one dealing with such sensitive subject matter. The collateral damage isn't just financial, it's emotional too.
Which brings us right back to that bitter irony we started with, but now it feels even sharper. The entire purpose of the film, bringing awareness to domestic violence, it got completely lost. Obliterated, really.
It's the ultimate narrative sabotage, isn't it? The film's vital message about surviving trauma and control got utterly muddied. The public wasn't talking about the fictional survivor's story. They were fixated on the real-life fight for control between the actual star and director. The art just became background noise to the legal drama.
And the cruelest part is how the production's reality seemed to mirror the very thing the film was condemning. A film about silencing and control became tangled in accusations of manipulation, boundary violations, and attempts to silence through these massive lawsuits. It's like the production itself enacted the darkness it was trying to expose.
The source material used a really powerful analogy. It's like watching a documentary about famine while the crew is loudly arguing over who gets the best food from catering. That inversion feels cruel because the film was meant to reach survivors, people wanting that conversation they got served, conflict and noise instead of testimony or insight. When the making of the art becomes a public spectacle of the power struggles it condemns, the integrity of the message itself is just fundamentally damaged.
And while the legal system grinds along at its own pace,
which is notoriously slow.
Right, the court of public opinion is moving at lightning speed. This huge gap emerges between what feels true emotionally and what can be proven legally.
This is really the heart of so many modern celebrity crises. The public craves, almost demands, an instant simple verdict. Guilty or innocent, hero or villain. Millions of people are trading in these fragments, bits of leaked filings, carefully crafted quotes, polarized social media takes.
It reflects a culture that seems to have lost patience for nuance, as the sources put it.
Totally. You're almost forced into taking an absolute stance. Lively is the brave boundary setter fighting the system, or Baldoni is the wronged artist ambushed by a powerful machine. There's very little room allowed for a messier reality where maybe both parties experience the conflict intensely, but differently, where maybe mistakes were made on multiple sides.
But the legal system doesn't operate on feelings or social media consensus.
Not at all. The law is designed to be painstaking and slow for a very good reason. It has to weigh actual evidence, assess credibility based on testimony, apply complex statutes like anti-SLAPP. It's not supposed to just validate feelings.
So the emotional truth, feeling betrayed, feeling unsafe, feeling exposed, that's intensely real for the people involved, but it doesn't automatically translate into legal victory.
Exactly. Those feelings, however valid, have to be painstakingly converted into legally admissible proof, documents, testimony, corroborating evidence to hold up in court. That process is inherently messy, and frankly, the media spectacle thrives on that mess.
And while the public is consuming all this drama, behind the scenes, the Hollywood machine is doing its thing. This choreography, as the source material calls it.
Oh yeah, it's a masterclass in strategic maneuvering, playing out constantly. It involves bringing in the absolute top-tier legal talent, the sources mentioned, names like Alexander Shapiro, which signals a move towards really aggressive, high-stakes, appellate-level defense.
Okay.
It involves meticulously timing PR releases to shape the narrative, getting allies to make carefully worded public statements, even using the legal filings themselves as a form of public relations, releasing certain documents, or highlighting specific arguments to sway opinion.
So this whole performance, this choreography, it's designed to kind of mask the raw human element underneath.
Absolutely. It attempts to sanitize the conflict, package it neatly for public consumption, and, more importantly, for the court. It tries to present the best possible, most legally defensible face, hiding the inevitable human pain, anger, and confusion that's really driving things.
So Lively's team scored a major point, getting that huge $400 million claim dismissed. That must have felt like significant validation.
Legally, yes. It was a huge win, affirming her right to report workplace issues under California law without facing that kind of massive financial blowback. It was a vindication of her initial action, at least in the eyes of that specific statute.
And for Baldoni, that dismissal must have been a massive blow.
Staggering, especially since he had so publicly staked his reputation on fighting what his team framed as a malicious extortion attempt. Having the core of that claim tossed out on procedural grounds based on protected speech, that's a tough public and legal setback.
So for both of them, regardless of the legal wins or losses, the cost is immense, just personally having this play out so publicly.
Absolutely. Beyond the astronomical legal fees, which are certainly mounting, it's the personal toll. It's knowing that your deepest creative disagreements, your professional conflicts, your alleged personal failings have become this ongoing public spectacle, dissected and judged by millions. That's a heavy price.
Okay, so the legal system absorbed that initial shockwave, dismissed the biggest claim, and now it's consolidating what's left. What's the end game here? What's the climax we're heading towards?
The court has actually set a trial date, March 2026.
March 2026. Okay, so there's a definitive date on the calendar.
Exactly. And that calendar stamp, it changes things. It transforms the ongoing headlines and legal maneuvering into a binding schedule for accountability. This is the point where the process of legal discovery, depositions, evidence disclosure becomes mandatory, inescapable.
So March 2026 is when the curtains really get pulled back, when they have to move beyond the spin and confront the actual evidence under oath.
That's the idea. That's when deposition testimony will likely be read out. When discovery might unearth private texts, emails, internal memos, all the things the PR teams have been fighting tooth and nail to keep protected or frame in a certain way.
You can imagine the scene outside the courthouse.
Oh, undoubtedly. It'll be treated like a red carpet premiere by the media.
Yeah.
But inside, the legal process is supposed to finally force the parties to move past the crafted narratives and confront the cold, hard, forensic weight of the evidence. What can actually be proven?
Okay, let's try to synthesize this. Looking at the whole messy picture, what's the bigger lesson here? What does this incredibly expensive, high-profile fight teach us about celebrity, about making art, and about who gets to control the story?
I think is a really profound and maybe cautionary lesson about the dangers when celebrity power, immense wealth, and the pressures of Hollywood infect the artistic process. When a system that's supposed to foster vulnerability, create meaning, maybe even tackle difficult truths like trauma.
Yeah.
When that system gets overwhelmed by this level of financial pressure, reputational stakes, and ego, the truth just becomes incredibly messy, almost secondary. The entire focus shifts away from the film's intended message, trauma and survival, and becomes laser-focused on the meta-narrative. Who gets to tell the story? Who wins the fight for control?
And the value of the art itself gets lost in that fight.
It gets diminished, absolutely, by the battle for ownership over the story.
So the ultimate tragedy here isn't really the $400 million or even the damaged careers. It's the fact that the message the film was created to deliver just got completely obscured.
That feels like the cruelest endpoint, doesn't it? A film intended to expose dark aspects of human behavior control, manipulation, silencing, became the very arena where those exact power conflicts played out in the most public way imaginable.
If the film's core message gets drowned out by the roar of competing voices, by the legal battles and the PR spin,
if the audience can only see the lawyers and the strategists, not the story,
then the project has fundamentally failed in its primary mission.
Exactly. The art might still technically exist someday, maybe it even gets finished and released. But its power, its capacity to actually heal or spark meaningful conversation, that feels fundamentally compromised by the story of his creation.
That's a really important and frankly pretty haunting takeaway for our listeners to consider.
It really is. And maybe we can leave you, the listener, with this final provocative thought. In that world, in Hollywood, where power is so often defined by your ability to control your own narrative, how often does that very pursuit of control end up overshadowing the painful, complex truth the art was supposedly trying to reveal in the first place?
If truth becomes something you have to fight for with $400 million lawsuits and armies of lawyers,
Then maybe the real story isn't in the eventual verdict, whenever that comes. Maybe it's in the echoes of all the voices, not just the stars, but the crew members, the people caught in the middle, the voices that were almost silenced along the way.